Forget the gleaming armor and the honorable duel at dawn. The most famous hero of the ancient world is a pirate. He lies to his friends, he steals from his hosts, and he regularly cons his way out of trouble. In other Greek myths, Odysseus gets terrible press. He famously tried to dodge the draft for the Trojan War by pretending to lose his mind. When he does enter combat, he prefers poisoned arrows and traps over a fair sword fight. These traits create a paradox. The Greeks dedicated a prestigious 12,000-line epic poem to a hero who actively avoids fair combat. Homer introduces his hero in the very first line with a specific, loaded descriptor, polytropos. If we break this down, it translates literally to a man of many turns. Classicist Greg Nagy identifies this as the signature of a trickster. That single word is so complex that modern translators rarely agree on how to translate it. Some choose shifty, others cunning, or simply complicated, reflecting a character built on mental flexibility rather than a single fixed identity. To understand how to survive the brutal realities of ancient Greece, we have to study the man who systematically broke all of their sacred rules. Greek society ran on a strict code of martial honor. You were expected to fight with brute force, speak the absolute truth, and ideally, die a glorious death on the battlefield. Achilles is the unbending embodiment of this rigid code. He is physically unstoppable, highly honorable, and ultimately doomed by his own pride. Odysseus encounters situations where acting like Achilles will get you killed. When he gets trapped in a cave with a man-eating Cyclops, drawing a sword against a giant only guarantees death. So he uses language as a weapon. He tells the monster his name is Nobody. When he eventually blinds the creature and it cries out for help, it ends up yelling, "Nobody is killing me," to the other giants outside. The Greeks called this metis, cunning intelligence. Odysseus replaces physical dominance with strategic deceit. He hides his remaining men under the bellies of sheep to escape, waiting hours in the dark for the exact right moment. Here, the ability to delay gratification keeps a man alive, while the strong are eaten. When a Greek king returns from a 10-year war, societal expectations dictate he should march to his palace, announce his name, and reclaim his throne by divine right. Odysseus entirely subverts this expectation. He finally reaches the shores of Ithaca, but he arrives disguised as a filthy, aging beggar with no social power. He spins elaborate lies about his past to everyone he encounters. He even tests the loyalty of his old servants and sits face to face with his wife, Penelope, feeding her false stories to see if she has remained faithful. In a culture obsessed with family names and legacy, a trickster treats identity as a performance. It's a tool to be put on and taken off as the situation demands. By discarding his ego and abandoning his royal status, Odysseus moves invisibly through his own home. He weaponizes his anonymity to scout his enemies, setting a lethal trap for the men trying to steal his kingdom. Above all the codes of war, the ancient Greeks worshipped xenia, the law of hospitality. Hosts and guests were bound by a sacred contract of protection and fair exchange, enforced by the gods themselves. Odysseus routinely ignores this rule on his journey. He raids coastal towns for loot and invites himself into the Cyclops cave to eat his cheese without permission. Yet back at his palace, a mob of noble suitors is committing a far worse crime. They moved in uninvited, slaughtering his livestock and consuming his wealth for years. Dressed as a beggar, Odysseus relies on these usurpers for a scrap of food. He turns their own social roles against them, exposing their moral corruption when they mock and physically abuse a guest. Odysseus occupies the lowest social rung to judge the highest. He bends minor rules of etiquette to protect the culture's sacred laws of hospitality. This reliance on deception is not a character flaw, it is a strategy for survival. The universe of the epic is incredibly hostile. It's governed by man-eating monsters, deadly whirlpools, and unpredictable, wrathful gods holding terrifying grudges against humanity. Marching through a world this inherently unfair with rigid honor will only ensure destruction. Modern translator Emily Wilson captured the essence of the character by defining him simply as a complicated man. It bridges the ancient maritime hero with modern psychology. The enduring legacy of the Odyssey is the revelation that survival requires us to be shapeshifters. We have to sacrifice the appearance of rigid perfection for the messy, complicated ability to adapt.